Welcome to Prepared for Parenthood, the podcast for hopeful, expectant, and new parents with little ones up to age 5. I'm your host, Dr. Stephanie Dueger, a psychotherapist, author, educator, parent coach, and married mother of 2. On this show, we'll discuss everything from the most up-to-date practicals of best supporting your young children, to thriving in relationship as a family, to more surprising topics around the psychology and development of babies from conception through age 5. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. I'm thrilled to have you here today. Welcome back to Prepared for Parenthood. Today, our guest is Zoë Willis, who is a family food consultant and mother of many, who supports busy parents by transforming kitchen chaos into culinary calm. As the founder of Real Life, Real Kitchen, Zoë works with parents to tailor nutritious, tasty, and straightforward meals that fit naturally into a bustling family life. She's passionate about helping the overwhelmed mamas of today save time while rediscovering the importance of home cooking and the impact on family life. Welcome, Zoë. We're glad to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. It's a real pleasure. Thank you.
Could you share a little bit about your journey, what inspired you to create Real Life, Real Kitchen?
So it originally started off just as a food blog, just me pootling away and writing up my various gluten-free recipes and things. But what happened was I've been stay-at-home mum for about 13, 14 years, and I've been home cooking for about 20 years. So I've got very, very good at cooking from scratch and looking in the fridge and just seeing bits and bobs and throwing together something and creating big meals, lots of leftovers, lots of batch cooking. But because I was in my little bubble of being at home, I hadn't realized just how these skills were diminishing in the world outside and how unusual I was becoming. And I'd have friends coming to me, asking me questions. How do you do this? How do you do that? How do you prepare? How do you cook these things? So it came from that, really. And I started working with families to help them rediscover the joy of cooking. What I was finding is a lot of families, a lot of the mums, let's be honest, it's mainly the mums. A lot of the mums, life just gets so busy. You're busy with the school run. You're busy with a lot of working mums these days. You're busy with marriage. And you're juggling so many plates, and food gets left and left and left and left until mums realize that they're just so overwhelmed by life and there isn't the space for the cooking anymore. So I'll come in at that point and we have a sit down. We talk about where the real tensions and struggles are. I'm quite good at looking at the family dynamics, looking at timetables, I suppose, or scheduling. And I'm able to find those gaps in between and work with the client in order to find the best times, the most time-saving moments that they can prepare the food. That means that will improve the health with their children and their partners, but also it means they can have better relationships because there's more time. You can spend more time with your family as a result without compromising on food quality. A lot of this actually also began because as a household we're gluten-free and dairy-free. And I know for a lot of people, they will say, oh my gosh, I can't do it. It's so expensive. How am I going to live without bread? And again, those questions kept on coming up as well. And I know that what tends to happen is somebody decides that they have to make dietary changes for health reasons. They'll go and see a functional medicine specialist or maybe a general practitioner who says maybe you should give up some things. And again, for the busy mums, they go, oh my gosh, I've got to completely rethink the sandwiches, the cereals, the whole meal. We eat nothing but pasta. It's another thing. It's another thing. So again, this is where I step in and are helping the families gently transition. Looking at one meal at a time, working with entire families, because it might be one person that needs to make the change, gluten-free or dairy-free, but that's no good if there's all the bread, all the pasta in the cupboards. You need to have the support of the whole family on board. So it's working out how to make these meals function within each family. So yes, it's been an interesting path. And I mean, it's 21st century. We can kind of create whatever support the world needs. And it seems that people are looking for this in-house guidance, if you will, this kitchen coaching.
And you work with families who also don't have dietary restrictions as well.
Yes, absolutely.
So anybody across the spectrum, they could be able to eat everything on the planet.
Yeah. I've had a client, she can cook beautifully. What was fascinating was she said, I can cook a recipe, but I don't know how to extend it. I don't know how to create the leftovers. I don't know how to batch cook, and I don't know how to get creative beyond the recipe. So again, I come in and talking about what sort of things we're enjoying. She enjoys cooking and giving her the confidence to play and to get creative with her cooking within her home context.
So we talk a lot on this podcast about what a transformative rite of passage becoming a new parent is. And often this transition to parenthood involves a very steep learning curve and some overwhelm or lots of overwhelm. What do you believe is one of the best gifts that a mother of a newborn baby could receive?
So I've got 5 children. This isn't my first rodeo. I've done this a few times. And hands down, the best gift is food. So as lovely as it is to have the little baby suits or the little booties or a baby blanket, that's really beautiful. That's really great. So you can give that as well. The babies grow out of that quite quickly, particularly in that first year. So that's marvelous. But what the mum needs and also the father needs, you just need to be fed. When the baby first arrives, and particularly your first child, you don't want at 4 o'clock to start thinking about food, or you've gone 8, 9 hours and you've suddenly gone, I've only had a cup of tea or maybe a glass of water, a couple of glasses of water, I haven't eaten. You want people to bring food in those metal trays that you get for takeaways. You can buy them in the supermarket. You want food prepared in that. That means you can put it in the oven, quickly heat it up. You want frozen vegetables. You want salad in bags. You want really nourishing soups. And friends and family, the best thing you can do is just make sure you've got 3, 4, 5 weeks worth of food. Get a food train and taking it in turns to bring the food. Honestly, the best gift. And it means not only can the mum heal and recover from birth, then she can relax. She can have greater attachment with her child and really just enjoy that huge transition quietly, comfortably. It also means that the father, he's also going through a huge change. Everything's changed dramatically. And he can serve, he can support, literally put the food in the oven, and then everybody has a nutritious meal. And it just makes for much better relationships. So yeah, that really is the number one gift. Food is really important.
My husband and I found that super helpful we have 2 children, but after each of our births, we had a meal train and people were kind enough to bring us lovely meals for weeks.
Yeah.
It just made such a huge difference. So I think for new mamas or new parents and partners, I think it's just so supportive of that whole family system.
It is. And I remember when I had my first child, I was in an antenatal group. And one of the ladies, it was an American lady, but Taiwanese. So this is in London. So her mum flew over from Texas and was looking after her daughter and the new granddaughter. And for about 4 weeks beforehand, she was cooking soups, but with like chicken feet and bones and really, really strong, nourishing stuff. And continued to do that for another 4 or 5 weeks afterwards. Now, for the rest of us Brits in the antenatal group, we were just looking at this going, soup, why all the chicken feet? What's this? We had no idea about the nourishing effects of such a nutritious bone broth. And it was just so interesting that culturally this was the way they did it. They just knew that the mamas, the pregnant mamas, and after you've given birth, you need lots of iron, you need this lovely gelatin to really nourish the gut. And also the grandma was there to take the baby for a cuddle. The daughter could go to the novelty of going to the toilet on your own. This sort of thing, have a shower. Just that support along with that nourishing effect of the soup. It really stuck with me at the time. I thought it was strange, but now I've just gone, oh, wow. Such power in that, and the family bonds that were strengthened with it as well. It's huge, huge.
So, what do you think is a powerful way for new moms or partners who are doing the cooking to get support in the kitchen?
I think they need to ask. I think certainly here in the UK, I can't speak for America, but certainly here in the UK, people are quite reticent to sort of come forward with that sort of help. I think what partners and mums, before they have the baby, we need to start getting the confidence of saying to your friends, and particularly if you're coming from an environment, work environment, this is your first baby, and you don't actually know any other families yet, you need to talk to your work colleagues and say, please, it's really exciting and you want to see me, you want to support me, bring me food. It's calling up the family members and saying, please, this is the kind of support I'd be really grateful for. So it's actually finding that voice and asking for that help, which is
Really challenging for a
it's
lot of
really
people, right?
challenging because we live in a
Mhm.
society where it's go big or go home. And if you can't do it on your own, what's wrong with you? And motherhood, that change, again, we're quite siloed in that you're in your working world, you only hang out with people who are working, and then you have a baby, and all of a sudden you go, oh my gosh, I'm a mum in this sometimes tiny bubble of you and just the baby, which isn't healthy. You need to sort of expand that. And we just don't realize what a change it's going to be. And it's hard to realize or even conceptualize how vulnerable you can be. And it's desperately important as well. Having these conversations with the father as well, your husband, your partner, about the vulnerability that's to come, because it's a shock for them as well. They've seen you as strong, capable, whatever it is. And even for those mums who are going back to work, because I know in America, maternity leave is kind of non-existent. Even for those super mums who have to go back to work really soon, there's still a period where you are really quite weak and in bed. You need to be with the baby. You need to recover. You need to heal. And that level of vulnerability, we need to practice asking for help, because historically we've always known that birth is a very precious time and women are vulnerable and the babies need protecting, the women need protecting. And we need to start learning actually to ask for that support in anticipation. And then when it all kicks off, if you haven't asked, then actually bring the food, bring the cups of tea, bring the biscuits, just bring it, please.
And to kind of piggyback onto what you were saying before about the woman whose mother was cooking these hearty meals for her, do you have specific recipes for moms recovering from birth that would be, especially supportive in terms of their healing process?
I'm ever so sorry to the vegetarians and vegans out there, but really as much red meat as you can get. So if you can do some beautiful slow cooked beef stews that again have the bones in them, so the bone marrow is coming up. You can do things like a bolognese or a lasagna. And again, using the bone broth in it, you want high levels of iron, because when you give birth, there's so much blood comes out. When you start breastfeeding, your body goes through these huge changes and is working really hard. You need to be strong. And so it's having these lovely meaty stews, which again, you can slow cook. You can then put them in the freezer and they're very, very easy to reheat. Much easier than, let's say, a fiddly chicken schnitzel, really tasty, fiddly. You don't want to be doing one meal at a time like that. You want to be able to just throw something into the oven and be able to serve it up and even eat it cold later. So yes, I'd sort of say really hearty meat stews, things that also involve the potatoes, the parsnips. If it's a one pot, even better. So you don't have to work on the potatoes or separate pasta or separate rice. It's all in one pot. So yeah, the bone broth's really important. Lots of red meat.
So many families are looking for ways to save both time and money. But what do you believe is the best kitchen investment for these families that will also ensure real food ends up on your table?
So you're probably going to guess from what I've just been saying, but honestly, it's a slow cooker or a pressure cooker. Because what you can do, and again, this will work for families who are going to be having babies very soon, but also once your potentially back at work or the kids are at school, if you have a day a month or a day every couple of weeks where you're prepping freezer bags full of all the ingredients, get your slow cooker on in the morning, pour it in, and then when everybody comes home 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, the food is there and cooked and ready. And again, it's one pot wonders where everything goes in, and it's just there, and you can feed people quickly. This system works. Historically, if you look back, I think in the UK we had something called peas pudding, where essentially you'd have the fireplace going away in the corner, you'd have a giant cauldron, and you're just topping it up. Got some bones, throw it in, got bits of meat, throw it in, got some beans, throw it in, add a bit of water, a bit of wine, vinegar, salt, pepper, the herbs. And this thing is cooking away for days, days. And people just keep eating. Because family life wasn't just mum, dad, and a baby. It'd be mum, dad, baby, maybe 3 or 4 other kids. There'd be granny, there'd be the auntie. You might have labourers in the field who are popping in. You might have friends coming around. So there would always be a big cauldron or something cooking gently away. Oh, root vegetables, some carrots, some onions, throw it in. That works. That's been working for thousands of years. Slow cooker is just, in fact, a mini version of it, an electric version of it. So yes, I'd highly recommend a slow cooker. If you can, a pressure cooker, because then you can make the bone broths, which are just a really good basis for your soups. And you can add it again to your stews.
You're reminding me of the children's book, Stone Soup.
Oh, yes.
Have you read that?
Yes.
Where the soldiers come into a village in France and they say, just put the stone into this giant cauldron and it'll cook and it'll make this lovely soup, but it would be so much better if we had some carrots. And everybody in the community who hid all of their food starts bringing it in and loading up the cauldron, and then everybody gets to enjoy it. And it just speaks not only to the nourishment, but also to the community building that food can bring. So I love that vision of
and
it.
You know, it's beautiful, that story. You get different versions. So I don't know that French version. I know a Scottish version. And I've come across another version called Nail Soup, where a man has magic nail and he finds a widow who's very tight and keeping all the food to herself. And by the end of it, the pair of them are having a wonderful time. But it's that communality, it's bringing together and eating together and supporting each other, which is important.
And it makes me think of new parents. So often people who maybe don't have children or has been a long time, they've kind of forgotten the process of how challenging it can be. I know at the beginning, right after someone has a baby, often there's a period of wanting to just kind of nest in just immediate family. But as time goes on, that sense of community is so much more important. So bringing over food that maybe you can share and sit with a new mom who's recovering, holding baby, and maybe partner's there, maybe partner not there, but just building that sense of not being so isolated as we often are, at least in the United States. And it sounds like in the UK, potentially as well.
Yeah, in the UK as well. We've had this huge fragmentation of society because people have been moving to where the work is. It started with the Industrial Revolution, 200 odd years ago. If you look at other countries in Europe, so your Italy, your Spain, Poland, for example, there's much more of that intergenerational household living, or at least in villages and parts of cities, you know people, and there is just much more of that support. So yes, we need, as a result, to go out and create these communities, because I don't think we realize how mainly for women, because again, we're the ones who are making the community. We're the ones who need it, otherwise we go crackers. But we haven't realized how traveling to work is our new community. Whereas in the past, you would have been working in your community and then you'd have your baby in your community. But if you've been going out here and you're now here with the baby, work's continuing. I'm sure they miss you, but you're gone and that community continues without you, which means we have to work harder, unfortunately, to get out there and create community. I suppose my tip is for anybody listening, if you are seeing young mums or anybody locally who might need some support, you can just offer, I see you've got a new baby. Would you like to bring some cake over? And I've got some extra hot food. Would you like a meal? Start that conversation as well. So
multiple kinds of nourishment. Food and the social connection and the community building. We've been speaking today with Zoë Willis, a family food consultant and owner of Real Life, Real Kitchen. Zoe, how can people find you if they want to learn more about you and find out about your work?
Okay, so I'm at www.realliferealkitchen.com. I'm continuing the blog, but people can also have coaching sessions with me. It doesn't matter where in the world you are. I also have what I'm calling the meal planning power hour. That's an option where people they've got the ideas, they just need to get it out. That's where I come in and I'm able to support as well. I've also got the freebie library, which are various free resources that can help all sorts of people. The one that's probably most relevant for this audience, I've got a Back to Work Made Easy for new mums. Talking to mums who are going back to work, a lot of them will be thinking of the childcare, the juggling, and somehow the food will somehow fall into place. So with this workbook I've created, it's a 5-step process where you are really talking to your partner, finding the support you need, meal planning options, various tips that will make this transition back to work as smooth as possible from a household perspective, which means that when you get back home after a busy day of work, coming back to the slow cooker, food is all there and you can just be with your baby and reconnect. That's the main aim of this workbook. It's something that women can do. Maybe it's something, again, in America, because some women go back to work very soon, for mums to consider before the baby arrives, so that they can really prepare and get their home and kitchen in order with the support of the father and start creating a community to really thrive.
Thanks so much for joining us today, Zoe. It was lovely having you
Pleasure.
on.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the Prepared for Parenthood podcast today. I hope you found this episode educational, informational, and conversational, and that you'll join me again for another episode soon. If you enjoyed listening to today's podcast, I'd very much appreciate if you would rate, review, and subscribe. If you're interested in more information related to today's podcast, or are looking for parent coaching or courses, you can find my information in the show notes or online at preparedforparenthood.com.